What's good, guys? LM7 here, doing my third comparison for the new Force Awakens wave. This time we are comparing the two Millennium Falcons. We have 7965, and then of course the new one, 75105. So, let's see what's different about the two. See if you want to spend the money on the new one, and if you have the old one, you know, all that good stuff. So just like I've done in all the other ones, let's just do initial look at and see what's different. I don't know if we can actually line it up. That'd be great. There we go. So, looking at them initially, you can't see much other than the obvious. This one has this radar dish and this one has a square radar dish. And that's what people thought was the only difference in the beginning. But there is some noticeable differences. Even in the front section, you can see the red lights are different compared to the clear lights. That's not really a huge change. That's just a cosmetic change. The holes on the top of this Millennium Falcon are different because they're actually holes on this one. And I will show you a better look at that in a second. But what else is there? Not too much from this angle that we can see. Last thing we can see is that the detailing on this is built a little different than the detailing on the other one. So there's that. But if I this one like this, you can see that there is 4 holes right here. And then if I do the same with the other one, which I don't know if I can do like this, you can see there's small little stickered pieces which were not very accurate compared to the new one. So that is a good improvement, at least in my opinion, that they did that. Another thing with the front of the ship itself, they obviously the flick missile feature is in this first hole on either side, so if you press that, you shoot the missile, just like that. I didn't even mean to do that, but I did it. And the other one is obviously flick missile, which is underneath the bottom of the Falcon. So if we look at the bottom of this one, you can see it's just a lot of Technic and such like that. And if we do the same for the older one, it is more or less the same. But like I said, with the flick missiles there instead. I looked at the bottoms of both of them in more detail than I'm going to do now, and they're pretty identical when it comes to the fact that they're the same size ship, and they use the same Technic base to get the whole ship started. They use the same plates and the Technic pieces and all that. So there's nothing really new about that. These in general are built differently, like these wing things. Like if I take one off, we can see this is how this one is built. It's more brick built in general. Whereas if we do the same for this one's actually pretty hollow, where the other one is more, like I said, it's more brick built, there's more in it. And so there's that. Now, let's get on to some more minute things. The way this thing opens is just like that, and that's as far as it goes, and it's kind of unsightly looking. But this, if you want to actually get in and play in the model, folds all the way down and flat. So you can see straight into the ship now, whereas on that one you can't see anything except for the panel. So that whole mechanism is built differently between the two Falcons. Now I'm going to keep this one down because if we open up our first 2 panels, and that's going to be annoying, but we open our first 2 panels on here, you can see that there's now dark gray color mixed in the panel where the other one is explicitly light gray with some small minor details of color, and they added this piece for whatever reason. But you know, they have that spread. I'm not going to show each individual panel, but they have that spread throughout the Falcon. The old one is all entirely light gray, where the new one has a mixture of dark gray and light gray. And I think that's what makes the new Falcon look better, in my opinion, is the fact that there's more color diversity. And there's a couple other things that I'm going to get into in a second. So if we shut these, one thing I do want to note immediately, and if we look right here, this plate does not actually go over this angled walkway. That's the walkway to the cockpit. But this plate seems to fit nicely and is actually the same level. Whereas in the old one, they built it differently so that it's outside and overlapping the piece, which makes that piece stick out a little more than all of the other ones, and I didn't really like that as much. But not to, like I said in the X-Wing video, I'm not bashing this old one, I'm just showing you what they've changed or improved in the new one. So, looking at the back real quick, these little wind resistance thing, these little pieces right here, I knew what they were called and then I totally blanked on it. But those have been replaced in the new one with just bricks, just simple triangle bricks, slope pieces, and the such. But I do want to mention that these detailed pieces are exactly the same. There are 6 stickers built on little wheel type pieces and then kept there in place. Those are the same throughout both Millennium Falcons, so they didn't actually change that design in any way. Now looking at the top, we're going to look at the top in a second, but I want to mention that this one is slightly taller than this one because they built the body differently. And when I open it up and show you guys, you'll see what I'm talking about. But looking at the top, the gun is actually built a little differently. It's a little bigger. They use more pieces in the older one than they did in this one. It's more simplistic. But other than that, not a huge difference. So how do you open this one up? This one you just have to take the piece off. That's kind of, you know, whatever. And then they have this here, which is not at all in the new one. The new one is just a hinge, which opens up smoothly, and is a square piece. So I'm going to show that. So here is that compared to the old one, which they built a little taller. And as you can see, this is the old one, this is the new one. This is obviously much smaller of a thing. They wanted it to fit more securely, whereas this is a very big piece. I think the new one works better, to be honest, but maybe it's just I didn't have very much luck. Because I always had a hard time putting the minifigures in that spot with the older one. So there's a quick difference with that. The pieces that don't hinge open, right here, are built differently than the old one, where they're just completely squared and go all the way to the center of the Falcon, and used to build this top dark gray circular panel. Whereas in the in the new one, they are higher than the circular gray panel and not part of it. So, we're getting into the nitty-gritty, I suppose. They redid this, so this isn't square anymore, it's circular. But the features are still the same on both sides of those. There's the trapdoor, that you can put a minifigure in, and then the boarding ramp, which are very similar and not worth showing because it would take too much time. And I have to hold it at weird, stupid angles to do so. The cockpits are actually built pretty close to the same way. If not the same. Actually, this one's aligned a little closer to the body than this one. It's hard to tell, but it is if you look at it from a top view. I just don't want to hold both of them because it'd be really hard to do so. So the last thing to show about the two is let's look at the inside. What have they changed on the inside? While I'm doing this, two things I want to note is that they both still open like that, obviously, and that's just a feature that they had to use to keep the Falcon functional while being able to cover all of the pieces they needed to. So, with the Falcon open, another thing I'd like to know is this particular hinged plate is differently built than that hinged plate and fits smoother on there, but that's a very minor change. And the thing I mentioned 2 seconds ago that I forgot and then remembered is that the back engine piece with the blue fire, I guess you could say it is the same. They built that the same way. But let's look at the old one, and then we'll show how it changed in the new one. So here is the old one. It's kind of bare looking. And I mean, there's a lot of studs and everything everywhere, and a lot of room. But you can see all of that. And then we can compare it to the new one, which has a lot more stuff going on inside, as well as the hyperdrive being built differently. Maybe they redid the hyperdrive. I imagine they would, since there's 30 years between episode 6 and 7. But they still have the same crates here, and the beds are still in the same spot. They redid these chairs and the game itself. They redid all of that. And I suppose they redid this front panel right there with the sticker here. They did. So that is pretty much the last thing I want to show. And it'll be the hardest thing to show. See where Luke is sitting? Yeah, that's only one spinnable chair with a different way they built the panel. A little smaller in the newer one. So, we know. I did that wrong. I still did that wrong. And then this one, you don't have to worry. I thought in my head, I didn't actually say it. That one you have to worry about which panel comes first, whereas the new one, it doesn't matter which panel you do, because they're all the same height for the most part, except for these three, which are one stud taller, and this one, which is one stud taller, just to show differentiation slightly. But, and now that I'm off center from the camera, I can move that over. So there is obviously some details between the two Millennium Falcons, and there's a price and piece count difference. 1200, 1300, 140, 150, you know, that's up to you. But hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and comment if you did. And that's it for The Force Awakens. Stay tuned for other stuff later in the year. But other than that, see you guys later.